All right. Hey, Queens. We are back for more. See what's going on with Mary, Mrs. Muffins, Andrew Noble, and this weird guy who has seemed to just kind of taken her. Okay. Um, let's see. I believe it's chapter 25. Yeah, chapter 25. She just got whisked into a carriage. Show me a sign. Anne Claire Lizotte. Whew. Though the carriage was majestic, with velvet interior cushions, I fear the livery driver is taking us to some dark and foreboding place. Even with the beaver fur that I've been given to wrap around me, I shiver. The curtains are drawn, so I can't see where we're going. Andrew and the gentleman talk in what looks like a polite manner. There isn't an easy intimacy between them, but they're cordial. The older man's eyes are penetrating. I name him Professor Hawk. Andrew eagerly opens his black satchel to show him his writings. Professor Hawk raises his hand to indicate patience, and then pats Andrew on the shoulder. I'm not a person. Am I not a person like them? Does Professor Hawk not observe my dilapidated condition and my terror? 20 minutes must pass before the carriage slows down and comes to a halt. The driver holds open the door, and I see a metal sign that reads, Beacon Hill. Oil lamps light the streets. In Chilmark, the high road is pitch black at night, unless there's a rider with a lantern. The building before me is 4 stories in height, with pilasters rising from the top of the first-story porch to the roof. It's so large it cannot possibly be someone's home. Is this an asylum? I'm led through the elegant foyer into the front room with a cold slab of table and sharp instruments. When I turn back, I see the latch rattle. They've locked the door. Why must they always cage me like an animal? My breath comes quicker as I examine the instruments. They resemble the tools hanging in our barn, only smaller and more refined, of smoother, polished metal. My heart pounds. The desk is loaded with papers. There's no attempt to conceal them. I spot quill pens and an inkwell. Do I risk defying Andrew so soon after my last transgression? A framed document has the name Dr. Henry Minot. He must be the gentleman who brought me here. I wasn't far off calling him a professor. I wonder about his surname. Pronunciations of English words vex me. George sometimes made futile attempts to explain them to me. I've never been examined by a formal doctor. Mommy uses home remedies when we're sick, teas and poultices made from hazelnut and sassafras bark. We're not the only settlers who use wampanoag cures. I see the handle of the door rattle. A thin girl wearing a white and gray gown enters the room. She looks to be about Andrew's age, with a sharp face and shrewd eyes under a twist of fiery hair. She must be the doctor's housekeeper. She has an open, curious look about her. She reminds me of Miss Hammond. I decide that her name is Miss Top, because she seems to bob a half curtsy every 5 steps, and when she turns almost fully as if spinning around. She never stops moving. Rolling her hands from her knees above her heads, she pantomimes for me to undress. I know for certain that Mama would not approve. I take off my cloak, hat, shoes, and stockings and cross my arms. I refuse to go any further. Miss Top shakes her head. Her lips are moving. She takes hold of my gown and she loosens the ties on the bodice, and then yanking down the skirt. At the inn, I was overworked and underfed. My muscles are strong, but I'm too exhausted to resist. She instructs me to sit on the cold table. I shiver in only my undergarments. Andrew and Dr. Minot enter the room. The doctor motions for Miss Top to light a fire in the wood stove. She does as she's asked, and she leaves me alone with them. Blood pounds in my head. Dr. Minot looks at my ears. He looks in my mouth, and he feels the cords in my throat, and the natural bumps on my head under my thick hair. He talks to Andrew, who takes a metal bland like a crown, and he puts it around my head. He adjusts it with tiny screws, and I jerk as if someone had slapped me. I feel a trickle of blood down my right temple. I raise my hand to wipe away the blood, but Andrew lowers it. This is terrifying. for her. I can only imagine how scared she must be. That was me, not the book. I feel like a bare tree in the wind, but I won't let myself cry. Girl, I'd be sobbing. Andrew moves the metal band. He measures its diameter and notes it in a book on the desk. I have the urge to spit in his face. Why does the size of my head have anything to do with except fitting a new bonnet? Miss Topp returns while Andrew and Dr. Minot wash their hands in the fresh water that she pours into a basin. They talk, turned away from me. Before I know what's happening, Miss Topp takes me by the wrist and pulls me up the carpeted stairs into a room with a tub larger than any I've ever seen. When she gestures towards the high water, I know she's asking me to climb in. No, 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 I sign. I will not be stripped bare by strangers. How am I to know that this girl won't attempt to drown me like an unwanted litter of kittens? The shift that Mama sewed is not easily torn off. I cross my arms over my chest. I will not cooperate. The girl persists in her duty. I pinch, I push, I kick. But again, she overpowers me and she forces me into the water. I slip under and come up coughing. When she scrubs my hair and body, I wail until I must sound like a banshee or an Irish spirit. Miss Topp's mouth pinches into a thin line as she runs her fingers over my bruises. Papa allows his flock of sheep more privacy than I'm being granted. I'm so filthy that the water darkens quickly. Miss Topp drains and refills the tub. By that time, I breathe easier. I even hold my breath and go underwater entirely for a moment. I can pretend I'm bathing in the fresh spring at home. Miss Topp sits on the floor, flushed and panting. She wipes the hair back from her forehead. Our struggle seems to have subdued her. For a moment, she's less efficient and more forgiving. She gives me a clean shift, a mob cap, and a shawl. Miss Topp leads me into a large room with a canopied 4-poster bed. It is beautiful. It's like something out of my stories. The polished wood floor is covered with rugs fancier than our braided ones at home. Pretty combs, soft brushes, and a wreath of pine and berries sit on top of the bureau. I'm not ready to glance at my reflection in the floor-length mirror. Miss Topp carries the green gown Mama made me with her arm outstretched. I start to protest. She seems to understand my attachment to it, no matter its wretched state. She lets me hold it to my clean cheek for a moment before she throws it in the fireplace. I grab the fire poker and try to retrieve it, but Miss Topp snatches the poker and uses it to prod the gown to ensure that it burns quickly. I drop to my knees. Miss Topp leaves. I rush to the door behind her. I can see her wiggle the latch and make sure it's secure. I notice that she keeps a ring of keys on her apron. Are there other prisoners here? I pace the floor, still avoiding my reflection in the mirror. Behind the flowery drapes are 2 floor-to-ceiling windows. They're covered by iron bars. Why should there be bars on a 3rd floor? Who else has been held here, and for how long? Where are they now? I try in vain to shake the bars. My hands can barely reach the panes. I cannot smash them with hope of escape. I sit with my legs tucked under me on the duvet, and I brush out my hair. A duvet is a bedspread. I wish Mama were here to gently work out the knots. I yelp as I snag them. I should sleep peacefully in such a bed, but it's too large and empty. I curl into the ball. A ball. I have the quivers, so I pray where I am instead of getting down on my knees. Lord Almighty, I've always believed that you listen to me and you keep me safe. Please send someone to rescue me before they do me further harm. I will never again tell lies. No one comes.